This looks totally innocuous, but I'm about to have the most terrifying moment of my diving career. The reason I'm screaming for help is because I'm being dragged uncontrollably backwards through the water by this scooter that's attached to the rear of my rebreather. Not only is it a horrible feeling, but it's also really dangerous. I've got over an hour of decompression to do, and if I get dragged to the surface, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So the good news is it all ended up well, but it absolutely didn't feel like that at the time. So if you want to know what happened, why it happened, what I did next, and why this was my most expensive dive ever, then this is the video for you. I'm Dom Robinson, welcome to my Deep Wreck Diver channel. I think you're going to love this video, but a big plea from me. Can you please try hard not to laugh too much at my misfortune? You find me here on our club rib as we prepare to dive the wreck of the Lord Stonehaven. It's a lovely little armed trawler sunk in 1942, sitting upright in about 62 metres of water. It's a beautiful wreck, and although it's been dived loads, no one has ever found the bell. So our aim for this dive was to take a pair of scooters down and do a search off the side of the wreck. And you never know, perhaps we might come across it. Now, unusually for me, I'm not going to show you the full video of the dive, not least because 40 minutes of us doing a circular search on the seabed is not the greatest viewing. And as a bit of a spoiler, we never found the bell, but there you go. So there's two of us here. Scott, my buddy, he's got a Suex VR7, and here you can see I've got my brand new, well, new to me anyway, Dive Extras Piranha. It cost me £3,000 second hand, and this is the first dive I've used it on. I think that's going to become significant in a bit. So one of the things I hadn't really thought very much about is that most of the other scooters that I'd used before had two switches, one to turn them on and off, and the other one the trigger to make it go. Now the Piranha doesn't have that, it just has a single trigger to make it go. The other thing it's got is a lock on it, so that you can lock it off to prevent the trigger operation, or if you want to, I guess, to put it, when you've activated it, to put it in like a cruise. So if you're doing long distance scootering, you just lock it on and then you can take your finger off the trigger, and obviously it just reduces a bit of stress on your finger. You don't have to hold the trigger on the whole time, and I guess makes it easier. So it's a nice little feature for that particular use case. Now, what I'm going to talk to you is about a practice that we'd got into the habit of doing when Scott and me were in Croatia. When we were out there, we were diving on Bonex scooters, and we're doing a lot of diving on planes. So when we dived on the plane, we would clip the scooter on behind us, and the scooter would float above us, and it meant that we could swim around on the plane and everything was fine. We also got into the habit of doing that on deco stops as well. So once again, you get onto your deco stop, you would turn the Bonex scooter off, you would clip it onto the rear of your frame, and then it was just out of the way for your deco. Now, of course, you can argue about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or not, but it's what we did, and actually it worked really well. So it was something that I had ingrained in my head as a really good idea to do on deco stops, to get your scooter out of the way, turn it off, clip it on the back of your unit, and then it floats above you. Now, I've already said that I'm not going to share the full dive with you, mainly because it's dull as you like and we don't find anything. But you will see one of my really early videos on the channel is a dive on the Stonehaven. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. So it's a lovely dive, the Stonehaven, really nice, lots and lots to see, and fascinating history as well. So if you haven't seen it, I'd say go and have a look at it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to cut straight to the chase, which is we've come back to the shot line and we're starting the ascent back up. So for anyone who's seen any of my other videos, you'll know that obviously I've just taken my strobe off. And once again, if you've not seen my strobe videos, you should definitely do that. And I'm scootering up. All is seeming pretty good at this moment in time. Really happy. The one thing I've realised, I'm going to need to shorten the leash on the scooter. It's just a bit long, so it's a pain when I'm using it, but hey, you know what, other than that, it's all pretty good. We've had a really nice dive. even if we've not managed to achieve our aim, it's otherwise pretty good. So there I am, scootering up, and I think one of the nice things about this video you don't get to see very often is, for some reason, my handsets appear quite nicely in the videos. So people are often interested in that kind of thing, so if you keep an eye out, you will see them. Scott's coming up behind me. You'll have seen that there was still 2 strobes left at the bottom of the shot line, so there's still some divers on the wreck, and that means when we get to the lazy shot won't need to be pulled by us. That's someone else's job. So all pretty good. See the ascent rate on the computer there is sort of 3 or 4 yellow bars. So that's me coming up at 10 meters a minute, 10, 12 meters a minute, there or thereabouts, which is a good rate of ascent on a deep dive. You don't want to be coming up slowly. It's not a good idea. You just increase your deco for no particularly good reason. And I think very shortly, there it is in fact, there is the lazy shot. You can see there's not too much strain on it, so the current hasn't built up. In fact, this part of Plymouth is not particularly tight, there isn't particularly strong currents, so you do get quite long periods of slack. So there you go. See, I'm coming in, I'm going to take my tag off. It's the sort of slightly transparent yellow one. I've used those for a long period of time, so you'll have seen them on many of my videos. So yeah, this dive is going absolutely beautifully, and I have no idea that in a few short moments things are going to go horrendously wrong, and I'm going to be the most terrified I've ever been on a dive. And I think it's probably worth considering why I was terrified, and it's that thing about control. For those of you who've seen my bailout video, and I do hope you have, if you've not, there's a link in the bottom in the description section, and also on one of those card things. So the difference with this dive to the bailout one is this sense of control. I was completely, or I felt that I'd completely lost control when my scooter started going and I was being dragged backwards. So that is something I found particularly difficult to cope with. Now, by my background, for those who don't know, I'm ex-military. I used to fly helicopters, so I'm used to kind of dealing, I guess, with situations where the unexpected things are happening. I've spent a lot of time in simulators. I've spent a lot of time practicing emergency situations, all those kind of things. So I guess I'm quite used to dealing with the unexpected. So what's happening here at the moment, you can see I've got to 32-ish meters, and you've probably just seen I've taken off my scooter, and this is me clipping my scooter on the back of my rebreather. Obviously I've decided I don't need it anymore. I'm getting to that phase of the dive where I'm about to start doing my decompression, so it's sorting all the bits and pieces out for decompression. So there you go, turning the, if I haven't done, I'm going to turn the torch off very shortly. There you go, you can see my handset, quite a nice thing. This is me changing the high set point to 1.5, so that's accelerating the decompression, deco. That's doing it on the rebreather, so that controls the actual PO2 of the unit. You can also see I've come off the shot line, so I'm not holding on the shot line anymore. I'm happy with my buoyancy. There isn't loads of current, so I don't need to hold on to it. And I guess the next thing I'm going to do is change on my off-board computer. Yeah, there we go. So you can see I am changing that, and I'll be putting 1.5 on there so that both my computers, the one that's controlling the PO2 and the off-board, which I use to control my decompression, is at 1.5. So slight segue there. People often go, oh, why do you use your off-board computer to control your decompression? Well, what I have on my main computer, on the controller for the rebreather, is I have 90-95 set as gradient factors. That means if I ever need to get out of the water, I can do it really quickly, but I control the decompression, so I build in a bit of safety by having 60-80 gradient factors on my off-board computer. That's just the strategy I like to adopt, and I might expand on that in a future video, I think, so I can talk about why I do that. But anyway, onto this dive. So you can see, I think I'm actually back holding onto the line there. Me and Scott, we're all sorted. Things are looking good. There's 2 divers still below us, so the lazy hasn't been released, but there's no current. So there you go. I've let go of the lazy shot. Just having a quick look at my computers again. You can see there 63 minutes TTS. So that's time to surface. So I've got at least an hour of deco to do. And that's all quite nice. I'm just chilling out. It's nice conditions. Everything has gone well. I've sorted out all my bits and pieces. So it's just a good moment just to kind of, you know, be nice and relaxed, because that's what you want to be when you're decompressing. Unfortunately, this isn't going to last too long, as you're going to, well, you've already seen. So what I'm doing now is similar to Scott there. I'm getting into a kind of horizontal trim position. So if you think about it, I've got my my rebreather on my back, I've got my cylinders in front of me, I've clipped my scooter off. Unlike Scott, I've clipped my scooter off on the back of my rebreather, so it is floating above me, which is unfortunately where my fins also are as well. Now, just before the scooter started working, I felt my fins brush against something, and therefore the only thing I can think is what happened is I had locked off that little knurled nut that you saw earlier on. I'd locked it off. I thought I'd locked it off all the way so the trigger couldn't be operated. Clearly I'd not locked it off enough, and the force of my fin hitting the trigger must have been enough just to activate it, and that is why the scooter started. But it was in that odd position. It was enough to allow the trigger to go past the stop, but it wasn't enough to let this trigger go back the other way. So I've actually tried to do that since on my scooter, and it's actually, there's only a really, really small bit where you can actually do that. So really frustrating. But hey, there you go. That's what happened, and there's a lesson. So there's Scott in front of me. There I am, all nice and relaxed, just chilling out. And very, very shortly, I am going to kick the scooter. Kicking the scooter is going to turn it on, and I'm going to start to be dragged backwards, and you're going to start to hear me scream. Scooter is about to go, and there it is. It's going now. You can see me being pulled away, being pulled backwards. Really, really upsetting.
No! No! No!
I'm quite a long way from Scott. He can't see me. He's looking the wrong way. He can't hear me. So the scooter is flying around all over the place, dragging me round. I am really concerned about going up. So what I do is I ditch a bit of air out of my dry suit, and you'll see me starting to go back down again. That's not a permanent solution. I'm going down quite quickly. Meanwhile, what I'm doing is I'm reaching round behind me. I'm just trying to grab the scooter, trying to get it under control. Actually, I can't get it. I can't grab hold of it. It's in a really difficult position. Of course, it's going all over the place. So in the end, what I decide to do, I think it's the only thing I could do, is I actually unclip it from the back of my rebreather, and I do that, and then all of a sudden, this guy appears, and it's like, wow, what happened? And you've probably just seen that he's just pointed down, because obviously that's where the scooter is. So Paul later told me that he was above me on the lazy shot. He saw it all happen. He dropped down to try and help me, and there's Scott as well. He's just appeared. He must have realised something was wrong. They all sort of reacted really quickly. Unfortunately, I also reacted really quickly. Paul says he was about a metre away from me when I ditched the scooter, and the scooter has obviously gone. It's completely lost. That's £3,000. That's my most expensive dive ever. It took me about 2 years before I told my wife that I'd lost a scooter. I actually hadn't told her I'd bought it, so it wasn't really that much of an issue that I'd lost something she didn't know I had. But the really important bit from this whole incident, and it's the bit that I often talk to people about, is, okay, £3,000 is an awful lot of money, and frankly, I could have really done without losing that scooter. But the fact is, when I was being dragged backwards in the water, when I thought I was all alone, and it seems like a tiny amount of time when you look at my video, but believe me, when it was going on, it seemed like it was going on for pretty much forever. So at that moment in time, I would have been in the position that I currently am now, which is all being well, not getting dragged to the surface, and the quid pro quo for that is to lose my scooter. So I would have taken that, and therefore I'm very pleased to be where we are now. So what are we all doing? Well, clearly we've all come off the lazy shot now. Paul and Scott are both with me. Lazy shot is long gone. So, and obviously hasn't been released because there's still some divers down there. So we're now separated from the lazy shot, but we're together as a 3, which is a pretty good place to be. So we're all taking out our delayed SMBs, as you can see there, and we're all bagging, sending them up to the surface so the boat knows where we are. And the boat will now have the challenge of having to follow both the lazy shot and this group of 3 delayed SMBs. It's all part of the protocol. It's all perfectly fine. Obviously, internally, I am absolutely, I'm a few things, I guess. First thing is I'm really relieved that I'm okay, because there was a moment in time when I didn't think I was going to be okay. Oh, so probably just worth interesting. What am I doing there? This is a nipple feed delayed S&B. So you probably saw there was a hose that comes off one of my bailout cylinders that I can attach via a nipple onto the delayed S&B, and it just makes filling them up relatively easy. So that's got up there. So we're all under our delayed S&Bs. There's Scott, myself and Paul, and we are going to carry on with the rest of the dive. So I guess probably worth reflecting on some lessons. What do I think are the learning points from this? Well, I guess probably the first learning point is the obvious one, which is that you should always try out dive gear somewhere relatively shallow so that you can get used to the nuances and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, guilty, absolutely guilty on that one. I should have done that. Do I think it would have changed the price of fish with this? No, I don't think it would have done, but it would have meant that I'd have sorted out my leash problem, which was the other problem that I mentioned. Other learning points? Well, I guess a good learning point is that even when I'm really terrified and I was absolutely bricking myself when this was happening, is that I feel I can make decisions that have good outcomes. So that's go me, well done Dom. I'm very pleased about that one. Another thing is that diving with a team absolutely helps. Now, if I'd have been slightly slower, I am absolutely certain that Paul would have sorted me out, and that would have probably been a good outcome, probably a better outcome than this. But it's really nice for me to know that other people in my dive team are paying attention and are able to support me, and that is a really nice place to be. So there's another lesson, I guess. And the last lesson I'm going to take away from this is probably about the particular scooter. Now, I've obviously lost that DiveX scooter, that Piranha. I do have a new one. I bought exactly the same type of scooter. I really like them. Do I clip it on behind me on deco stops? No, I do not. It always gets clipped to the front of me on deco stops, and the reason is obviously because of this incident. Do I think it would probably be okay to clip it on behind me? Yeah, I think it probably would, although I am always nervous about activating the trigger. I don't use that knurled knot thing at all now. It's as open as it can be on my current scooter, so I don't use a knurled nut, but I have occasionally activated the scooter even on the front of me. Maybe a cylinder's banged the trigger or something like that. So that is, I guess, a limitation. If I was to buy another scooter, and I'm hoping I don't need to do that for a while, I think one of the things I would really look for is a separate on-off switch. So I think that is a really important safety feature on a scooter. So if you're a scooter manufacturer and you're making a new model of scooter and you want me to consider buying it, then please stick an on-off switch on there, and that would be something I would really appreciate. So that's the dive over. This is me back on the surface, safely and very relieved. Guys on the boat helping me get my rebreather off. If you've never done rib diving like this, getting your CCR up is always a bit emotional, particularly for the person on the boat. They weigh obviously quite a lot. But I'm back on the surface, all is well. I'm not bent. I get to dive another day. Okay, I'm 3,000 pounds lighter than I was at the start of the day. But do you know what? Taking that when I was being dragged backwards through the water. It was absolutely terrifying, even for such a short period of time. It was a horrendous experience. I can't describe how bad it was. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope maybe you've taken some lessons from it. As always with my videos, look, it'd be really appreciated if you could leave a comment, if you could like, if you could turn on your notifications, and obviously, I guess a new thing, I've got my Facebook deep diving group. Feel free to come and join that. Possibility of winning a torch if you do. And other than that, obviously watch some more of my videos. I hope you enjoy them, and I will see you all next time. Thank you.